Ayo, Ray, run that back.
You are now listening to the OTM Rewind, where we revisit the most iconic gems that were previously dropped on the On the Mic with Ray White podcast episode.
Let's get it.
I think, and especially the agency part, like I was talking about, like I'm one guy in one office in a building of 60, like trying to remember that like consensus builds a lot of things. And I think that's been a struggle just in like the current climate. And I appreciate my boss, because my boss is always talking about like, hey, like we need people to get along to go along. Like there is no my way or the highway. And I really appreciate that, because it's just such a struggle, right? Like the pendulum swinging is goods and bads. And I think more moderation, it would just be more beneficial for all of us right now. And I think I try and do that in my job, just because it's like we don't have 28 votes. They don't have 28 votes. We're all going to have to work together here at some point. And I think the frustrating part right now too is like keeping that mindset. I will, because I'm not perfect. There's days when like we're in our fourth special session. By the end of this month, we will have been in session for 240 days.
Wow.
It's just ridiculous. Like, and I of course get frustrated, because it's like, we're trying to work on our budget. We're trying to work on this dividend thing. And at some point, like just things weren't going well. And I just remember just thinking like, this is stupid. This is dumb. Let's just go home. And I was like, okay, well, that was a pretty childish thing to say, because you're a state employee. You can't just go home. Like, it doesn't work that way. But it and that's where it goes back to that part of like, you're constantly training, right? Like you're constantly having if you're not being self-reflective and you're not thinking about the fact like, oh, why did I get upset? Oh, because I want something to happen. Well, that person has their own goals and ambitions, and I may or may not agree with them. And but being aware, I think that's the part that I try and keep in the back of my mind, is perspective of other people and being aware of their perspective and not agreeing with it, but I can understand it.
Right. No, what's fascinating is there's multiple, like with the older we get, the more how complex and layered all the things that we're a part of is involved with. So like, as you stated, just the engagement that government has on our daily lives is pretty integral. And if we're not engaging with what's happening locally, we could be missing out on some opportunities to enact that, the change that we want to see, right? Or be able to greatly understand. Even in your current role, just being able to recognize just the system of how it operates and who touches what and what relationships you need to build, what conversations you need to have, how do you bring them to the one space to help understand what the perspectives are is necessary. Otherwise, you're going to be missing out on a blind spot or a gap or an unintentional harm, or just miss out on something completely entirely by not having the right person in the room or having the right relationship there and present. And then even as you stated, just the interpersonal dynamics for your own self stepping into those spaces, and then even just in understanding other people in their world, is so important for us to kind of come in with that mindset of what I hear you saying is coming to mindset of that consensus of collaboration, of connectivity, first and foremost, and understand from an empathetic perspective, what do they see? What do they feel? How do they experience this? And then how do we then bring in unity? Because we're going for the same thing, right? It maybe sound different or the approach may be a little bit off or in a different lane, but if we can find that common goal together, how much greater could we see change in our communities than us trying to do it separately or in our own corners or what have you,
Absolutely.
But that's really good and hard. To listen to or watch this full episode, be sure to check out the On the Mic with Ray White podcast on your favorite listening platform and on YouTube.
Let's go.